Dum-dum, Beedle-dum-dum, Beedle-dum-dum, Beedle-dum-dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you
and you, duck and cover.
Hello, South Africa, and welcome to the 8,764th episode of Duck and Covered. No, it's episode 8. I'm your host, Grant, and this is one of my co-hosts, Matt, and the other co-host, Doug. I hope the layout is correct with me pointing again, as always. Tonight we have a special guest, Yamikani Tatenda.
Aloha.
He is a fellow actor. He was supposed to be in the Color Purple revival. If that's still going to happen or not. Okay, but we'll get into that. But anyway, he's a good friend of mine, also in the business. And before we get to chatting to him, I'd like to give over to Doug to give us the latest in our news and our stats.
Okay, all right. Before we get to the news and the stats, there is an important correction we have to make from the last broadcast with Scotty and Mel. It turns out that The Horse and His Boy is in fact the third book of Narnia, not the second, and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is the second. So just to get our facts right, so you know the correct order.
I have to say that I'm so glad you straightened that out, because I spent all night last night awake in bed staring at the ceiling wondering what the correct order of the Narnia books was.
The DMs we got from all the fans just correcting us.
Hey, when you make an error, you have to retract and correct. This is part of a good broadcaster. That's what you do. All right. Anyway, to get to the less important stuff. Obviously, we're still looking at incomplete statistics. Not all the countries have given in their last 24-hour numbers. Places like Italy, South Africa still have not updated the latest figures. So up to this point, in the last 24 hours, we've seen another 45,000 odd cases, bringing the total number of cases up to 885,530. So we are slowly getting close to that million. It should be noted, however, that 229,436 cases have been resolved. They're no longer an issue. So there are only 656,000 active, currently infected patients with corona. The most interesting thing of this, in fact, of the cases that have been resolved, that 209,000, is that 185,000, or 81%, were recovered and discharged, while 19% of the resolved cases resulted in death. So that's quite high. I mean, you're looking at about 20% mortality. And when you take into account the Black Plague was only about 35% of Europe when it hit their third, 20% is, 2/3 of that number is not far off. So we'll just have to keep an eye and see how that happens, particularly as some of the less developed countries in Africa, in South America, even Italy's medical care, and they're supposed to be first world's, completely overwhelmed. How that affects and how those carry through. In terms of specifically South African statistics, we're still looking at 1,353. We're busy waiting for the latest numbers in terms of new cases, with 5 deaths still the ones being reported. But we have seen 50 recoveries so far. So our recoveries are 10 to 1 in terms of where our fatalities are. So let's hope that sort of trend remains, if not improves, if we possibly can, and hopefully we'll see that happen over time. With the flattening of the curve, with the lockdown, hopefully we'll see less and less happening. Now, I was going to see if I could find some statistics out of Zim, as our guest is a man from that country. but unfortunately, I haven't been able to locate specific figures for Zimbabwe, although they have themselves been locked down in terms of their flights in and out. And there are stories, quite positive stories, where analysis of what COVID-19 means for Zimbabwe, and that is, I mean, you're very well needs currently seek medical care. So what that means is, hopefully, this will be being pushed into local Zimbabwean hospitals to try and improve them, while the people who would usually jet set out are forced to make use of it, and hopefully it'll encourage them to put more money into their healthcare system going forward.
Well, let's give over to Yami. What is your report back? What has your family been telling you, and how long has Zimbabwe been?
Well, right now, what we know is that I think there are 5 confirmed cases in Zim of COVID-19, and there's been 1 death. Yeah, about 5 so far, and 1 death.
Okay.
This actually a young personality, Zorro Makamba, who died. He was only 30 years old, and he came from a very wealthy and affluent family, actually. And his story is quite harrowing. Apparently, he had just come from the US. He had been doing, I think he was working that side, so he flew back home after the pandemic began. And he got tested and he was found positive, but it was such a hassle for it. Unfortunately, they're not prepared in Zim. They don't have anything. Basically, the reason he died was because of a plug point that they didn't have in the hospital in order to plug in the ventilator. And they actually didn't have ventilators there. I mean, it's actually terrible. Like, it's really sad. They said it was going to cost them $120,000 to get a ventilator for him to actually use, which obviously was ridiculous for his family. So it's quite, it's a bit of a disaster. We're not prepared. If the virus takes hold in Zim, it's going to be catastrophe. So right now, all we can hope for is that, I guess this was the first and only death, and that these other 5, perhaps, they recover. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And that we don't see any further spread.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I can't believe, like, the country's right next to us, and we heard nothing about it. But I mean, our news has also been centered completely in what's happening in our country, and obviously Cheeto head there in the US. But sure, that's hectic. Sorry, that's what an American Cheeto head is what an American friend of mine calls him.
All right. Fair enough.
All right.
Sorry,
I don't know.
you were saying, Yami?
I'm saying I hope what Douglas said is right, that as a result of people being forced to stay in the country, that they do funnel in money where it's needed and where it's necessary, into hospitals, into, I guess, for medical practitioners, because unfortunately, after they graduate, they immediately leave the country, for greener pastures. And we actually we're like essentially the second most literate country in Africa right now, and certainly the most educated. 99% of Zimbabweans are educated, and yet we seem to be suffering almost for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hectic, man. But now, how's it been for you here at home? How have you been dealing with it? Are you staying with family, or what's going on?
I'm staying with my mother and my brother, and
same here. Twinsies.
Yeah, I've been having fun. I've been making my own fun. You know what I mean? Like, I'm making these weird little short films every day of myself. I kind of made a fake series called The Lockdown, and each day chronicles like a moment of something stupid that happened. Like, in the one episode, I'm talking to myself about, wait, before I say anything, what's the age restriction on this program?
We're private, so
we restrict as we have to. So go ahead, and we will put the restriction in the description.
All right. So the one day I'm like talking with myself about, like, I need to cause some some drama, and just talking to myself, as people do when you're in lockdown. You end up speaking to yourself because you are your own company. And my most recent episode was I got a call from myself from the future telling me not to do something. I don't know, like, I just sort of, I've been making my own fun. I mean, I'm a singer as well, so I sing a lot, and I think I would say I'm making a lot of noise for the neighbors, but on the bright side, a lot of people have gone home. So the building is quite empty, which gives me permission to make as much noise as I would like to make, which is exactly what I'm doing.
Well, if I'm honest with you, I mean, like on my one side, I've got a couple with 2 young kids, and on my other side, I've got a couple with 3 young kids. So, like,
right.
given the option of listening to you singing and listening to them screaming, I'd take you singing any day of the week.
Yeah, I've also got a neighbor like nearby.
No, we have this horrible couple that lives next door to us. And they are specifically known for causing drama and shit. Like, the one day, the one girl arrived at our door naked and crying, and it was quite hectic. Like, she was covered in blood, only to find out that it wasn't her blood. Yeah, no, it was. We got her inside, we cleaned her up, gave her a bed to sleep, and we're like, asked her, like, what's going on? What's going on? Tell us your story. She's like, oh no, this man, he's beaten her, blah, blah, blah. So we're 406. And they are 407. So we go downstairs, we speak to the security, basically like, this needs to end, because this had been going on for at least a year, and we were getting tired of always hearing the screaming from next door.
Wow.
And it's because life is life. We're downstairs trying to help this girl, like, you know what I mean, help her. This guy comes down, he's like, my mother's a lawyer, I know my rights. She used to hit me as well. And then he's like, actually, I'm gonna break up with her. I'm gonna break up with her. We're like, all right. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't be together, actually. Then she starts crying. No, but I love him, and we can work it out this time. So I'm very grateful that they're not here in the midst of Corona, and we've had some beautiful silence. Like, I can read, guys. I can actually read a book.
Yeah.
Not stressed that at 4 a.m. someone's gonna come to my door.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I've been sitting with my mom and my brother. Like, we sit out on the front stoop, if you will, and what we realize is, like, without all the cars around and that, you can really hear the birds. Like, and they are noisy buggers. Like, they're going wild. But about your little series, and also about Paul Next Door, I recommend you read up on the Drama Triangle by Cartman.
Okay.
Not Cartman like South Park, but Cartman with a P. And and it's basically, if you step into the role of any 3 people in this triangle, you're guaranteed to create a drama. So you have the rescuer, you have the accuser, and you have the victim. And basically, if once you know this, like, you can't watch soaps anymore, for instance, because it becomes so obvious that they use the recipe to create drama.
Wait, why would you want to ruin my love for soaps, though? I don't know how I feel about all of it. Yeah, that seems like I mean, I will check it out. At the same time, I mean, all we have right now is television and Netflix. Like, that's it.
And Duck and Covered, Yummy. And Duck and Covered. That's why we're here. To provide quality entertainment. For our tens of followers. I love that joke.
Hey, followers, what's up?
Yeah. What's happening in your lives that you're watching us?
Yes.
Well, they're in lockdown.
Guys, I tell you, by day 12 of lockdown, we're going to get a spike of viewers. We're going to watch all the shows on Netflix. They're going to be done with Tiger King and the rewatch of Game of Thrones and the Harry Potter marathons, and they will flock to us in their 20s.
Look, I mean, nobody going to be done with Tiger King anytime soon. That shit is a mess.
I need to watch it. I need to watch it so bad.
Oh my!
So, I'm guessing then that you've seen it.
I don't want to spoil it. I have watched Tiger King. I watched it in one go, in one day, because I just couldn't believe that any of this stuff was real.
Yeah, I have heard it described as the Honey Boo Boo program with tigers, effectively.
That is a perfect
And
description
meth.
for it, because that's exactly what he is. And you know what? You know, as someone part of the world of the LGBTQ, it was quite disappointing that the lead, I don't know, he's definitely not the protagonist, the antagonist is one of us, but such a fudging mess. Like, he's a disaster.
You know,
He had everything that he needed, and then he goes and ruins it, tries to kill someone in the midst of things, and like, I'm just like, how?
Hey,
No, guys.
spoilers.
I've
I
got to.
know.
That's spoiled out, right?
Okay. We'll stop giving away any kind of plot points. But the only thing that I will say about Tiger King is that because my wife started watching it and I was catching little bits of it as she was going through it, and I turned to her at one point and I was like, more than anything else that's going on right now, this is what convinces me that America is fucked.
Yeah. then we jump from 2 to 16 to 2 to 18.
Yeah. And I was trying so hard, hey. I was like, let all my F's just like simmer out
It's
somewhere
fine.
else.
It's fine.
But now that I
Totally
know,
cool.
Yeah. I thought I'd break that ice for you, so.
There we go.
thank you
Because
so
Matt
much.
is such a
I
gentleman.
I needed that too. But otherwise, yes, Tiger King. Moving on swiftly.
I'd just
Well,
like to bring something back to the attention of everyone here. Maybe we can talk about it. Their NGOs in South Africa are calling on governments to, yes, listen up, guys, very important for all of you, calling on government to remove the ban on the sale of alcohol and cigarettes, which I'm sure we can all support. And the reason that they're doing it is because the NGOs say that you find more harm is being done to people with a dependency than good by not being able to access it. I mean, I've heard stories in the past of people, drinking floor stain because it's got alcohol in it, or Listerine or whatever. And the original reason for doing the ban on alcohol was to stop people socializing in pubs and taverns and that. But if they closed the pubs, then what's the difference? And of course, cigarettes was to try and stop people filling up the shopping centers to buy smokes. But most people in this country buy their cigarettes from spaza shops, and there have been reports of black market cigarette sales anyway. So I mean, this is one of the things. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I definitely know. I mean, cigarettes less so, but I mean, I can tell you that if you are, abusing alcohol, coming off of it cold turkey is a pretty dangerous thing to do. That'll send you to the hospital or to the morgue pretty quickly. So I get where they're coming from with regards to that. I also get where they were coming from with banning it in the first place. But I think that, as our president said, some mistakes will be made and we will correct them as we go along. So are they essential?
There's definitely no right answer.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon?
I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. I think there are many, many different possibilities and many options that exist. And they explored one avenue, and now people have come and spoken up against it. Personally, I feel 21 days is the perfect amount of time to either create a habit and or break it. And apart from a lot of people with a dependency towards alcohol, there was also the possibility of people actually gaining their own dependency as a result of having nothing to do. Because it was interesting, just for instance, going to a Pick and Pay and watching the people in the line at the Pick and Pay liquor. Everybody began to hoard, stocking up for what looked like maybe 3 months worth of alcohol, which you knew that they were going to consume in those 21 days. That for me was very problematic. But that's what happened. And of course, I get it. I know there are alcoholics out there in the world, and it must, to have that thing, that I guess your addiction taken away from you in a very forceful manner would be difficult. There's no way to sort of even monitor something like that. Because it's not like you can get a card saying I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to need some alcohol for the next 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing.
That won't work. So I don't know.
For instance, yeah, sorry, Yami.
No, I'm just like Matthew said, they try it out. If it works, it works. Doesn't, as I said, they'll keep refreshing, changing the model.
Yeah, I must say, like for myself, I actually wasn't aware about this. Funnily enough, this morning I was having a chat with my mother, and she was telling us about a family friend who he had taken ill, but he was a severe alcoholic, and they actually had to put alcohol in his IV, just to keep him from coding, basically.
Yeah.
And I hadn't realized that withdrawal from alcohol was so severe. I thought it was along the same lines as cigarettes, to be honest. You get a little bit annoyed, you get a little shaky maybe, but I didn't know that it's really that bad.
Yeah,
it's
man,
hectic.
it'll mess you up in a big way. But I mean, Yami's point of, like, it's also the perfect amount of time to develop a habit I really hadn't thought of it in that way either. And that's a really good point, actually. It's like, yeah, you can argue like people need to drink, but at the same time, it's like, you can also come out of this period as an alcoholic, I guess. And the people who are at risk very possibly could end up doing that.
Well, either you're going to come out of it as an alcoholic, or you're going to go out and buy a tiger. Clearly, those are the two options.
Oh, Christian.
But also talking about
I think that they never.
Yeah, Yami.
They never mentioned the fact that also, I mean, alcohol affects you in terms of like your respiratory system. It damages that, and that's literally what we're fighting. Wow. That was the main reason why there was the ban. It was kind of like, you can't, this thing, it incapacitates you, and this virus, it aids the virus in a way. That's actually what alcohol will do if you consume it. I mean, obviously not in a dramatically, how would I express it clearly? It's not like you drink alcohol, you're going to get corona, but you drink alcohol and counter corona, the chances of it affecting you more are higher.
Right.
Yeah. Like I know, for instance, as a singer, that alcohol is more damaging to your voice than what smoking is.
Really?
Funnily enough. And the dehydration on the vocal cords is...
Okay.
little fun fact I'm just going to throw out there.
All right. Okay.
I must say we must start wrapping up. We are short on time. But just because I've been asking everybody, and you mentioned earlier that you're reading a book, what book should people be reading while lockdown? Yami?
Yeah. What's your recommendation?
I was reading this book, The Zahir by Paulo Coelho. Beautiful story. The other one. I forgot his name, and he just died just now. I'm reading Indaba My Children as well. I just finished that one. Those are the two books I'm reading. Indaba's a long book.
So Under Zaire and
Indaba My Children.
Indaba My Children.
My Children.
Definitely, please read The Zahir, guys. That book changed me.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, there you have it.
Awesome. Thank you, Yamikani. Thank you for spending your time with us. It's been great.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming on. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah. And to all
our followers.
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.
Ciao.
Hey, guys.
Duck and cover.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you
and you. Duck and cover.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing.